Welcome back, everyone, to Montgomery County's Engage at Home, brought to you by the county's Caregiver Support Program. Today, we have a guest from the Parkinsons Foundation. Andrew, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Andrew Peck-McClain. I am Advancement Coordinator with the Parkinson Foundation of the National Capital Area.
It's so good to have you here, Andy. So, the Parkinsons Foundation, could you give us an overview about what is the Parkinsons Foundation?
Sure. We are a local resource for people with Parkinson's disease here in the DC area. We had about 30 classes in Maryland, Virginia, and DC that met in person before the coronavirus. Now we are doing classes on Zoom. So we have about 30 classes a week. Some of them exercise, some of them are communications classes, some of them we just started a new karate class. So a variety of ways that people can exercise or can help with their Parkinson's disease. We also have some support groups led by Leon Paparella, a local psychotherapist. And we have other kinds of offerings, educational pieces, a Parkinson's Pointers lecture series that is quarterly, a yearly symposium. And I can go with more as Lily has some other questions or as it's fit to include them.
Wonderful, thank you. So let's now start getting down into the weeds. You've spoken about a number of programs that caregivers or someone with a diagnosis is going to want to connect with you. Take the time now to just talk about a number of those. Thanks.
So one of the best ways that caregivers can be involved, and we've always had this, is to come to classes. There would be caregivers that would come to classes, and we met in community centers or in churches or at senior living homes. And caregivers are certainly welcome to come to Zoom classes now as people exercise. And we do have a fair amount of caregivers who do come, with their partners to those classes or friends or family members. We have a recently diagnosed group that we took online onto Zoom back in the spring. And that is open to caregivers as well as to people who have been diagnosed with Parkinson's. So that's a good way to help learn about the disease, as well as to gain support from others who are going through a similar circumstance. And besides the support groups that Leon leads, we do list on our website other support groups in Montgomery County, as well as in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And those are always a good way for caregivers to find people to walk with them, to help answer some questions, or just to have a place to go to get a break for an hour once a week or however often you're going.
Very well put. And I think you're exactly right that the person with the diagnosis oftentimes really values that opportunity to be with their peers, to be able to talk frankly and not have to be apologetic for their diagnosis. But then on the other hand, that caregiver who is doing their best, oftentimes, if they have not had the experience of Parkinson's disease, may not understand it. And both your education programs and the support groups really provide them with so much respite from putting their best face on every day.
Yeah, I mean, and it's obviously different with, just to pick up on the educational piece, the quarterly Parkinson's Pointers series that we started a couple of years ago. Those were a great way for you to sit next to somebody and to make a connection face to face. Now those series, it happens a little bit differently, and maybe you make a face to face connection over Zoom. One of the other new classes that we've started that might be a great class for caregivers is we started a social class. We have exercise and communications classes that I mentioned, but we found that our participants also want a chance just to socialize with each other. And that may be true for someone who has a diagnosis of Parkinson's, as well as for a caregiver who wants to be a part of that conversation as well, of just talking about everyday things.
Yeah, exactly. So you've transitioned from being all in person and now it's going virtual. How is that working out?
I think, you know, I don't study other nonprofits, but I think that we're doing as well as anybody. I think probably our biggest challenge was we have a yearly symposium, typically in March or April. And so that was scheduled for April, and we did hold that online. It was well, the doctors did a great job of presenting and tweaking their presentations to be over Zoom. For us, it was a big learning curve, just from a simple, you know, customer support standpoint of helping people who are in their 60s or 70s or 80s to learn how to use Zoom. Since then, and having, you know, classes, you know, about 30 classes a week, it's amazing how much people have learned about how to use Zoom and how to use their computers. So I think that has helped us, is that people know that. But as new people come in, we have resources and ways to help them. And we've also been seeing new people come in from all over the country, and not just from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. You know, we have people that are coming from California or from Minnesota because it's over Zoom, and they can participate in it.
That's wonderful. Would you mind just telling us a little bit more about that support that you can provide, just to hold people's hands whilst they get familiar with doing these things virtually?
Absolutely. We put together some videos, about, say, a 5-minute video on how to use Zoom. And people on our board of directors, as well as our staff, helped in putting different videos like that together. Where to click, you know, what you want to put in, you know, where to enter your email address, and maybe you might have to enter it 2 times in this particular screen, or the next day, because your computer remembers it, you don't have to enter it again. So things like that, I think, have been helpful. We also did a reach out, you know, our whole staff reached out and called all of the participants, and just wanted to talk to them to say, do you have questions? You know, how can we help? Can we email you a video or some kind of a teaching tool? And we also heard from some folks who said, you know what, I just really don't want to do it on Zoom. And we get that. I understand that. I think any of us, if we had the choice, would say we don't want to do it on Zoom. But it's the best tool that we have right now to be able to connect and to exercise, to communicate, and for caregivers just to be able to find some others who are walking the journey with them.
Absolutely. I heard you say when you were providing the overview that you actually are going to be having a karate class.
We do. We have at noon on Wednesdays, we have a karate class led by a gentleman named Ricky. We have some boxing classes. So Title Boxing in Rockville is one of our partners that works with us. And we have one of our instructors who works a lot with us leads a class that is a combination of yoga and Tai Chi. So there's a variety of, you know, some of the kind of the standard exercise class, if that's the best way to call them, are things you can do from your chair or standing up, you know, a lot of basic exercises and stretches. But with all of our classes, we tell our people, do what is comfortable to you. Do what your doctor has advised you to be able to do or not to do. And if it's a standing exercise, for instance, you can always sit down and do something very similar in your chair as you're seated.
Exactly. I really am glad that you're offering those, because that's one thing that for a lot of folk, they may feel uncomfortable even going for a walk around the street. You know, I know that I go for a walk in my neighborhood, but all of a sudden there can be 3 people, a dog, a stroller coming towards me. And if you have Parkinson's, and it's harder to navigate how to keep safe distance in a way that it's going to be comfortable. So I can imagine folk would really appreciate that opportunity to do active physical programs designed for folk with Parkinson's.
So one of the best ways, and I've worked with PFNCA for about 3 years now, one of the best ways that an exercise class can help both a caregiver as well as somebody that has a diagnosis of Parkinson's is it gives you some other people in your life. It gives you an instructor who's there every week, who is getting to know both the caregiver and the person who's diagnosed. It gives you a group of people that you're exercising with, or in the case of a communications club, that you're talking with for an hour a week, and you're building relationships. You're having shared stories and a realization that you're not walking this journey alone. But another way that it can just be really helpful is it sometimes is a little fearful or a little difficult, especially as a Parkinson's diagnosis goes along, to want to exercise, to have that motivation. And you've got some people that you have to look forward to seeing. You have an instructor who is going to miss you if you're gone for 2 weeks. And so for both caregiver as well as participant, it's going to be a way that hopefully engages the disease. There is no cure for Parkinson's, but we say that we like to help you manage the disease. And so maybe you have a granddaughter who's graduating from college in the next 6 months, and you want to use the exercise class as a way to help you make sure that you can be physically fit to make it to that. That's an excellent motivation. And the classes that we have can provide you a place to do that and to do it with others.
Thank you. That's really beautifully articulated. I think this is a perfect segue into asking you to tell us about the Parkinsons Walkoff.
Thank you, Lily. We at PFNCA, we don't do big black tie dinners or things like that. We do one major fundraising event a year, and that's our Walk-Off Parkinsons. It's typically held in September at Nationals Park. Wonderful place to come and have people come and do batting practice. Obviously, that couldn't happen this year with the coronavirus, so we're doing it virtually. We're having what we're calling an opening ceremony on October the 14th at 6:30 on Zoom. And people will get a chance to learn a little bit about us, to hear some stories of people who are active in the Parkinson Foundation of the National Capital Area. I'll have some educational pieces in there as well. And then we're asking people to go out and walk. Over the next 6 days, go walk, take a picture of yourself, of who you're walking with, masked, safely. And then we're going to come back on October the 20th for kind of a closing ceremonies, if you will. Again, 6:30 on a Zoom, and that'll be a way to celebrate, what we've done. The walk is also a way where we pull in family and businesses and other organizations in the community that help sponsor us, because this is our main fundraiser for the year. And so we're going to celebrate both, what we've done with the walking, what we've learned, as well as what we've been able to raise in funds over the course of that time. People can go to www.walkoffpd.org. Let me spell that out. WALKOFFPD.org. Or you can go to our website, PFNCA.org, and there is a way to link into that walk webpage directly from our website.
Thank you. And I will put all of the information that Andy's just shared in the description where you found this episode. So we've come to the end of our time today. Before we go, are there any closing thoughts?
I want to thank Lily for the invitation, for the work that her and others are doing in Montgomery County to help provide support for caregivers as well as for those who are diagnosed with Parkinson's. And as a local independent resource, I didn't say it at the top, but we're not affiliated with any larger Parkinson Foundation, National Parkinson Foundation. We're a local resource for you here in Montgomery County and in the greater DC area. So thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. And I wish you the best with all of those incredible groups that you were talking about and the Parkinsons Walkoff.
Thank you.
You have been engaged at home. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I want to remind you to stay healthy and calm.